Welcome to the fifth and final part of this how to build a trench board tutorial, where we finish up the painting, do the detail work, and take a tour of the final product. Okay, the next couple steps are done. I went ahead and painted that. I went ahead and painted the same brown that I did the rest. I'll do some dry brushing later. It's still wet right now. And then I went through and, as you can see, all of the craters I went ahead and primed black, as well as the side of the, very dark in my garage, I'm sorry, as well as the side of the walls. Now what I'm doing is I'm going through and I'm painting the craters a gray, and then what I will do is do sort of a brown dirt in the middle where it's really deep and dark, with sort of grays and rocks going towards the edges, and then transition back to the dirt of the battlefield. Here I'm just going to make this a rock cliff, and I think the easiest thing to do is going to be, once I'm done with the craters, I'm going to stand this up on its side so that I can paint it without stuff running down like my black ran down. I'm just using Crafts paint. I picked up a whole bunch for 30 cents a bottle. I've seen it anywhere from 59 to 99 when it's not on sale. Okay, so last of the base coat's down. I did a dark gray along the cave edges, and then I went back and added a little darker gray around the edges on the craters, because I didn't really like the last mix came out too light. It's still pretty cold, so things are taking a long time to dry. Then when I'm done doing the dry brushing on this, I'll come back and touch up the base. The reason I did the base first and then that was so that when I do the touch-ups, I'd rather the touch-ups come up on the rock face, as opposed to if I did the whole rock face first and then did any touch-ups. Well, I guess it wouldn't matter really. So maybe it might make more sense to do the cave first, because then when you just do the standard paint on the brown, then you can come up to the edges, and a little bit of dirt up on the walls would be okay. So maybe lesson learned. Might be better to do that cliff face first. Okay, so I've started dry brushing the tunnels. So all I did was, in the first go around, just a dry brush of just a standard brown, and then I did, it's just a craft color called Mississippi Mud. And you see there's another lighter layer on top of that. And I'm just testing this up down in the tunnels to start with. And then I use just an ochre yellow to give it just that little bit of lighter color over the Mississippi Mud. And I got a little overzealous right there. So I'll come back over that with some of the brown and the Mississippi Mud. So let me finish up the tunnels, and then I will probably start working on either the ground or the canyons next, if the canyons are dry. Okay, so I've started on the dry brushing on the ground. Just tried a few things to see what I liked. I did not like the brown in the crater, so I'll probably just regray those. But I think what I'm going to do is sort of a patchy appearance, so that from a distance it'll look sort of, like they're different areas. Some will have these are with all three of those colors. This actually goes to a sand as opposed to the ochre yellow, so even a little lighter. Some will have one color, some will have two color. So I'm going to start just with the browns around. That'll be my most common color, and then I'll come back and do the Mississippi Mud, and then I'll do ochre yellow and sand, just as sort of highlight colors of the really high parts. And then I'll have to come back at some point, and a few of the bigger things down on the side I'll make into rocks. And then I will do the grays in the craters and the canyon over there. Then it'll be touch-ups, and then I'll be done. Okay, so I got the first sort of patchy dry brush on. It's very subtle at this point. I'm not sure how well you can tell on this, but it's just to give it sort of a patchy appearance, probably about 40 to 50% of the board is dry brushed, and so what I'll do is I'll come through with the Mississippi Mud, which is just a lighter brown, and probably do another maybe 25 to 30%, and then I'll do a sand color at the end, maybe 10%. So then after that, it will be back to doing all the craters and the canyon walls, the details, and that will be it. Okay, so I managed to have the radio on again, and so I need to overdub, but I've put the Mississippi Mud on. It's fairly sparse and subtle, but that's the way I wanted it. Next, I will move on to do the sand color. Okay, so you can see here that I have gotten all of the dry brushing done on the ground level, and I've also done the first layer of dry brushing on the canyon here. So still a couple layers of dry brushing to go there, some down in the craters, but what I need to do next is get that last bit of dry brushing done, start working on touching up those edges, and then it's time to move on to all the detail work. Okay, so here I have finished the third dry brush on the ridge walls and in the craters. The next step will be to do a black wash in the craters and on the ridge wall as well. I think I'm going to leave some of that black down there because I actually ended up liking the look of it, and after that it'll be time to start working on all of the touch-ups and on the detail work a little bit more. Okay, so I did a black wash on the ridge line, I did a black wash on the crater, I did touch-ups, if I bring the light over, down in the trench. I actually found, I'm trying to get a good light on here, I decided I actually liked the color and the variation in the color, so I'm just leaving the planks this way. You could darken it up. And then what I did is I've started, because it's cold out, I've started taking them into the house one at a time and doing all of the little detail work and the craters. And I've started painting the rocks on this one. I need to do the other dry brush coats on those to make them a little less bland looking. And I painted this up. I'm not going to go over any more of the details and stuff. I'll just show at the end. You can detail however you want, but basically I just did a 3-color dry brush on the craters and the crater wall, then did a black wash, and now I'm starting to do the detail work, so I am almost finished. So here we are at the final product, and what you see here is the cave with some just chaos details. You can see that I have finished all of the dry brushing, rusted out the corrugated, put some water effects down in a few of the craters, not too many. A few effects down into the trenches, and basically just going to go for a little tour around the board. You can see how infantry fit down in it. You can see some of the corrugated elevator shafts, and then the detail work I put inside was basically some printed up posters, barrels, crates, anything that looked like little bits of ammo, and there are the stairs completed, some green sacks, anything that looked like it might be, you know, stuff you'd have needing for the battlefield to go out and take up to resupply. There's just some I-beams looking like they're covered, and then back again into the craters. Skulls I tried to keep to a minimum, but there are, you know, a few per panel. Here it is with just the flat, not the bunker, just to give sort of a feel of how that is. Some skeletons, body parts, that sort of thing. There's the finished skeleton that was pushed down into it so it remains flat. Again, just more craters, a line of infantry, and then you come up over to another water-filled crater.
crater with some bones and such. You can see some bones down just at the edge, at the bottom of the ridge line. I did dry brush all those rocks individually and then painted up that backpack. But you can also see sort of the size of artillery. There it is with the bunker in place, and then a little more sort of long-range view of how things can be sort of hidden to get out of line of sight. There's the damage. Pay particular attention to the damage. That's always one of the things that I have a problem with, and I actually did a black wash on that bunker as well. More craters, and that's the walk up into the crater underneath. You put just some little posters and stuff, anything to make it look a little more detailed. Then just, you know, some blood stains, and I'm not real happy with how they came out, but it is what it is. Then some salamanders. More walks through the tunnels. I used an airbrush to get that little bit of brown up on those back walls. Trying to do that with a brush and a dry brush was just too much of a pain. And there is the other little walk out and back onto the main area. And this comes to an end of the tour of this trench board. Next I'll show it stacked up in the garage. And now just a few alternate configurations out here in the garage, just showing how the modular build can be done different ways.
So last shot, here it is stacked up, takes up just about 18 inches, does pretty well on my terrain rack out here in the garage. That is the lava board, so this one is about an 8-inch stack, and that is an 18-inch stack. So everything's flat, it stacks, it's modular. I'm going to call this one a success and go home. So anyway, if you have any comments or questions, feel free to post them, and I will answer them as best I can.